Here's Brody Brazil.
I think it's starting to set in, all of the frustration factors from this process. And maybe there's like 50 things, but I think in the course of this video, I've isolated it down to just 10 things. The biggest frustrations of this entire process. Some can be spelled out easier than others. Some are more obvious than others. But I suppose if I'm narrowing it down to the top 10 list of frustrations with the A's and Oakland, and maybe moving to Las Vegas, I think these are the top 10. And it starts here. April 19th, that night that news broke that the A's had that binding land agreement on 49 acres west of the Strip, the Wild Wild West casino site. Turns out that's like the farthest thing from our memory right now, because that only lasted a couple weeks until the A's pivoted to the 9-acre Tropicana site. But April 19th came out of nowhere. We had just been in about 6+ months of silence between Oakland and the A's while they were supposed to be negotiating. And those two sides had agreed on that radio silence in the media to facilitate the process. They didn't want to talk about it publicly. They wanted to try and get their work done behind the scenes. And all of us recognized that both sides were awfully quiet, and there was no official explanation given to the silence. So again, we went from all that silence, like 6 months of nearly no developments, and assuming that things were moving forward and that they wouldn't say anything until they had something. But maybe they were right around the corner from it. And then boom, not only an update for the first time in a long time, but something that completely blew the Oakland part of this out of the water. The complete pivot. No longer was there parallel paths or even a front runner here or there. It was, hello, Las Vegas, goodbye, Oakland, from here on out. And obviously Oakland had their reaction to say, well, you're out, we're out too. We're not talking to you because we're not going to be used as leverage. But yeah, April 19th, again, we knew Las Vegas was being considered. I'm saying out of nowhere, but it got really quiet on that front too. You had heard about lobbyists hired by the A's to go be involved in the legislative session, but really nothing had moved forward publicly on that front because nothing was pitched to the Nevada State Legislature about public funding yet. It took another month and a couple days. I think May 25th was when all of that was even publicly moved forward on. So yeah, April 19th and the turning the back on Oakland part, that definitely came out of nowhere in reverse. Nevada's public money was kind of forced through by their governor. Now, it's their state, it's their politics. I'm not a Nevadan, so this is just my outside perspective, but the Senate and the Assembly didn't even bring up SB 509. Before it was SB 1, it was SB 509. They didn't bring it up in the regular session. That session ended in the first couple days of June after being in session for about, 120 days? 4 months? The A's put their request forward in the final day possible, and it just doesn't get considered. And they say, nope, we're punting on this. And then that night, the final night of the regular session, we heard there would be no special session about stadium money and funding. And then the next day you hear that, there will be a special session. The governor has forced it through. And even when it got brought up, there was some rejection to it. There was some objection to it, I should say. And all of a sudden, they went on a weekend-long recess, all of the assembly people and legislative people from the state of Nevada. They went on a recess for the weekend. They came back. There were some alterations made, and the Senate and the Assembly all of a sudden has a totally different viewpoint. They pass SB 1 in the special session. My point is, they tried to get out of this, and Nevada's governor put it right back on their plate. I get it. Some people will say, Brazil, learn how politics works and things happen. Yeah, I get it, but still doesn't make it any less frustrating. Those renderings were valid for about 60 days. You know the 3 images I'm talking about, the ones that still get used to this day. And in retrospect, like the longer time passes and we get away from them, the more it becomes clear how misleading and inaccurate they were to begin with. They depicted that stadium using a majority of the 35 acres when it's only on 9, and there would be a casino surrounding it. And oh yeah, by the way, the A's told their 2 design teams to just throw those renderings away. Don't even work off those. Don't even put those in your brain. Do something completely different. Meaning that those renderings, and look, they were fine if you could actually build that, if that was actually going to be the project, but it wasn't. Those renderings helped create buzz and excitement among politicians who eventually passed SB1 and the public funding. They came out for SB1 or 509. They came out for the legislative session. And then about a month after that was done, wad them up. And I kind of can't believe that part still came out. Nobody should have said anything about the renderings not being accurate. They should have rode that wave and then said, well, here's the version 2. Why do we even know that those renderings are entirely invalid? As we all know they are, but they still get used. That's so frustrating. The projections on Las Vegas and A's attendance and support of this team and this stadium, they are nobody's reality. And by that, I mean, what pro sports franchise, but really specifically, what Major League Baseball franchise has sold out every single one of its games for the last 30 straight years? That just doesn't happen. Oh, I know Vegas is different. I get it. Tourism. And they say that tourists will account for 30% of visitors or ticket sales to A's games. That's a lot. That's a lot of reliance on people from the airport to a hotel coming to check you out. Who else in baseball or in sports does that? And I get it. Who else is Vegas? But you are going so far off the charted path here of what you know is guaranteed versus what may absolutely not work. Or how about like the projection on the retractable roof? The idea that 9 acres is enough for your retractable roof ballpark. How come there are no other retractable roof baseball stadiums on just 9 acres across North America? The next closest is Milwaukee's American Family Field. That's almost 12 acres, and that's a tiny footprint. And look, there's a bunch of other projections for the record that are out there that are not anybody else's reality. And I'm not here to doubt Las Vegas. They've proven a lot of people wrong on a lot of different occasions before, but I know enough about sports and baseball and fandom to tell you that what they've promised in the long term, it doesn't match anybody else's reality. And some people, they eat that up. And yeah, that's frustrating. Oakland fans and Oakland attendance will be questioned here by outsiders. But in that same breath, you want attendance? What's the magnet for fans to show up in Oakland across the last few years, or really the last few decades? I mean, in this season alone, 2023, the A's on opening day, they were $100 million short of the league average payroll. Not the top payroll, the league average. They were $100 million short of that. They were at about 58. I think the league average or the league median was about 160 something. They're also playing in a 55-year-old stadium, and it's no Fenway Park or Wrigley Field or even Dodger Stadium. Oh no. Even Angel Stadium has been overhauled several times, and just to make it for baseball. This is the Coliseum, which hasn't gotten a lot of tender loving care over the years, and when it did, it was to make it more of a multi-purpose stadium for football. And even still, fans love the Last Dive Bar, but not enough to appeal to the casual fan and get attendance of where it should be. Which, by the way, attendance in the Bay Area for baseball has been through some interesting times, and the A's are part of that. But my point here is that without the players and without keeping the players and getting the team together that's compelling and interesting and putting it in a setting and location that is up to expectations of the paying customer. Like, you got to consider this part when you talk about this part. You know, it's like, what came first, the chicken or the egg? I guess that's debatable. But in this case, like, this causes this. This does not cause this. Does that make sense? And that's frustrating. The A's are obviously rushing this process, well, because it's taken some time. And maybe they are getting to the point where they are frustrated by how long is this going to last? But they're also rushing to stay on baseball's competitive balance tax, revenue sharing. And baseball might be rushing this because they just want to get to expansion teams, like literally 2 expansion teams. And before they can get to expansion and the $4 billion probably that it'll bring in expansion fees, they got to figure out Oakland's situation. They got to figure out Tampa's situation. Tampa's situation, by the way, is a lot less secure and stable than most people think. They think that was a done deal. It's not. And I'm not saying that with any joy or satisfaction. I'm really not. But we're talking about, should Oakland have a team? Should Las Vegas have a team? I know plenty of you from Southern Nevada are taking all this personal, the coverage I've been doing. Why can't Oakland and Las Vegas both have big league teams? Like, Las Vegas would be well suited with expansion, and Oakland would be best suited to keep their team of the last 55 years. Why is it one or the other? I mean, there's this rush, and we're like, oh, it's got to be this or that. Well, just do it right. Do both. You know it would work. Everybody knows it would, under the proper conditions and circumstances. Howard Terminal, and this is frustrating, was originally aimed for a 2023 opening. And just look at all the postseason players in 2023 across Major League Baseball. Literally every team had a couple A's. The world champion, Texas Rangers, Marcus Semien, Robbie Grossman, Jonah Heim. All players that A's fans, quite honestly, got various amounts of each of those guys, but not enough. Let them all go. Traded Jonah. Let Robbie and especially let Marcus walk away, which was hugely disappointing. But Matt Olson, Matt Chapman, the list goes on and on. Sean Murphy, Christian Pache. This would have been a great 2023 A's team if kept intact, if playing at Howard Terminal, if managed by Bob Melvin. And I get it. He moved on from San Diego to the Giants. But look how quickly the Giants acted on bringing in Bo Mel. That was the A's manager who I'm not sure he really wanted to leave Oakland. Look at what the A's would have had in 2023 in Oakland if they just kept it together. That is frustrating. MLB owners, they might take this vote and they might say yes, because yes is easy. I mean, will the process, the promised process, even take place with baseball? They said they're going over all the details. They'll have a relocation committee which will study why the team is moving away from where they're moving, why they'll move to the place they want to move. How about all the details of where they'll play in the interim, the cost of things, the media market, the media agreements and partnerships? Like, so are they even really going to do this process? Are you a parent, by the way, if you're watching this, are you a parent and you have a child who wants something, and it's hard to say no sometimes, even though no is the right answer. It's easier just to be like, okay, fine, whatever. Just do it. It's fine. Just go. Do it. I don't like it, but just do it. I'll figure it out. That kind of seems like a distinct possibility here, and that's frustrating. The slogan rooted in Oakland. That's frustrating. You know why? Not because it existed at one point, but obviously that's part of it. It existed for so long. It was broadcasted so many times, so plainly. But it still exists on the facade of the Coliseum to this day. And I mean like almost 7 months into the proclamation that we are going away from Oakland, going to Las Vegas, but nobody bothered to cover up the sign that says rooted in Oakland. It still exists as a painful memory. I mean, again, going back to if you say that's what you're going to do, you better show every last effort to uphold that. Are the receipts there on that? I don't think so, but it's a hard thing to see still in existence today. And I think this might be the last one out of 10 frustrating factors in all this. If you're an Oakland fan and you want to keep the A's and you agree with what I've been saying here and you look at the process and you don't understand it either and you've got a lot of questions and you think the team should just stay here because they'll do great here under the right circumstances, you might be right about everything. Right now, next year, 5 months, 5 years, whatever the time frame is, doesn't matter. You might be right and have the best opinion on all of this, and time will prove you right. But it still may not be enough to make a difference on what baseball as a business decides to do. And even though fans are one of the biggest parts of sports and Major League Baseball, they don't get the say here. And that is frustrating. And so there you go. I'm sure I missed some more. Maybe you've got one or two. Go ahead and put them down in the comments section below. And the fact that you made it here to the end of the video always makes me happy. So put a thumbs up down below just because of that. Also, don't forget to subscribe to this channel so I can definitely see you back here next time.